Welcome to the Microcast, the short-form podcast from Microcosm Coaching, where we break down the science, strategy, and psychology behind smarter endurance training. Each week, we tackle a key concept in running, training, or recovery, and we give you practical tools you can apply right away, whether you're building back, leveling up, or chasing down a big goal. We keep it short, evidence-based, and grounded in real coaching experience. No hype, no fluff, just actionable insights to help you train sustainably and perform at your best. Let's get into it.
I'm Kylee Van Horn, and I got into coaching after I graduated from college, and I went into coaching at the collegiate level at UNC Charlotte. I coached track and cross country. I have coached anywhere from the high school level up to all ages and abilities on road, track, and trail. I love coaching athletes that want to get curious about their own limits and abilities, whether that is through a race or whether that is through challenging themselves in a specific route that they want to do or a long adventure with friends. Someone that really gets curious about their limits and how they want to push themselves to try and reach their potential. The biggest problem I help people solve is navigating life stresses and injury stresses and integrating that into a training plan that is going to work and help someone be able to come back or to come together to build something that works and is fun for the person. I like to ensure that an athlete is able to integrate things that mean something to them into their training so that they're able to achieve a goal, but also have that life outside of running or biking or whatever it is that they're training for. With my nutrition background, I think I kind of have this like spidey sense with people. I'm preemptively asking them how their run nutrition was or how their daily nutrition is going if there's a problem, if they're feeling fatigued, or if I'm noticing that they're super stressed. I feel like I'm always maybe hyper aware of the way that nutrition can impact performance, can impact an athlete from an injury and illness perspective, and trying to maybe take a more preventative approach so that people don't end up in a hole in the long term. My hot take would be that you actually need to run a certain number of days a week to be able to successfully, injury-free, complete a race. We can't necessarily cross-train our way to a running 100 ultra. My favorite athletes are communicative, so they actually give me feedback in their training logs, and they are curious about their own training in ways that they will ask me questions about things, and I can work with them throughout the process to help better them as an athlete. The things that set me apart would be my experience on road, track, trail, ultra. So I have a varied experience as a coach. The length of time that I've been a coach, almost 20 years, which is wild. And then the fact that I am a dietitian and a coach gives me that unique perspective. I help road and trail athletes achieve their goals by helping them understand fueling, training, and their life and how that fits into an overall balanced training plan.
Back in the studio.
We've got to find something more interesting to say.
We're back. We're back. I don't have anything good to say.
We are so
The
back.
audience
It's
knows.
so over.
It's better than what we used to say. I don't even remember how we used to start these. And I'm supposed to not call them calls anymore.
Well, because
These
it's a podcast.
Right.
It's not a phone call, you maniac. Oh my God.
I'm old school.
You're old school. No, I usually start these by anxiously filling my mouth with a snack of some kind.
I did have 5 mini muffins before this podcast. So
that's perfect. You're carb loaded.
Continuing the streak of talking about my carb loading abilities, I'm ready for this episode.
Sweet. Let us do it. I'm excited. This is one that I am pumped about because I think it's going to challenge and update a lot of people's ideas and beliefs, particularly around data and metrics,
Yeah.
which is something people cling to like a buoy in a turbulent ocean.
Yes. A buoy and a turbulent. I love that. I was
Yeah.
thinking more of like a magnet on my refrigerator.
Also that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, what I see, I mean, and honestly, like, I think the emotional story that people bring to this is that life is chaos. Training a lot of times can be chaotic, and there can be a lot of uncertainty because you're dealing with human bodies that have jobs and kids and that are aging. And into that uncertainty, things like metrics and data and Whoop scores and Oura rings inject a sense of certainty and security. And boy, oh boy, do we cling to that with every inch we're worth.
And I think as we're going to get into today in the 5 metrics that actually matter in 2026, and also the 5 metrics that don't, we're going to find out that sometimes we get the inverse effect from using this data. So it takes us further away from where we actually want to be.
Correct.
And I want people to picture this when we, kind of dig into this conversation. So you've got an athlete.
This is based on a real athlete.
I love it. We're tying in.
Not just a creative writing exercise.
We're tying in our real coaching experience.
These are real humans.
But it's true. And I mean, this is funny because like it's the personification of many athletes' experiences and probably describe some of our listeners, which is why we want to talk about it and educate people on this. So picture this. You've got an athlete. She comes in to your meeting. She's wearing a Whoop on her wrist. She's got the Garmin on the other one.
Double fisting.
Her phone has 4 training apps on it.
You just got to have the Oura ring and we're set.
She's got everything, man. She's got it all. She's probably got the Oura ring too.
Yep.
She's definitely got the Whoop though. So her morning routine, she's starting to talk to you. She tells you, how she goes through her morning routine. She starts with checking her HRV. She's got the HRV for training app out.
Love it.
She's comparing that to her Garmin HRV and her Whoop HRV. Whoa, that's a lot of
unhinged. So many HRVs. That's like, I used to have a friend in grad school that would go to like 2 different psychics. And I was like, okay, A, this is
bizarre.
fake as hell. And the fact that you're seeing 2, I was like, wouldn't your psychic know that you're seeing another psychic?
You're seeing someone
Wouldn't
else.
that be the first thing your psychic would know? Oh my God.
Wow, that's unbelievable. So
that's the energy that this brings to me.
It's a very interesting energy. And it's a confusing energy, as we will soon come to understand, because we're trying to understand our HRV and our sleep score and our recovery percentage and the readiness readings and what my predicted outcome in my 5K is going to be. And, she hasn't even had her coffee yet, hasn't even had breakfast, and she's already, going through all this data and it's telling her how she feels.
Yeah.
And what she's going to be able to do in her training. And that's an interesting place to start your day from.
And here's the real kink in the whole thing. This was an athlete that had not strung together 4 consistent weeks of training in 6 months. So this is, I include this athlete anecdote because I think this is emblematic of what 2026 just looks like on a vibes level in endurance sports, because we have more data than ever. We have more devices than ever. We have more AI generated insights than ever. And yet people are not making better training decisions. They're not training more intelligently. They're not training better. They're not getting faster, even though all of this technology and all of this information is at our fingertips. So what I want to do today is to cut through the noise, for us to wade into the genuinely messy science here to assess what does move the needle in training, and what might actually just be eating your attention without the ROI. So we're going to talk about why some of this stuff might feel scientific and why that's actually a lot more of a vibe than people might even realize, and how to know which numbers you should actually be paying attention to, because spoiler alert, it's not all of them.
Seriously. And I love the story behind a good device.
Yes.
And that, for me, that really hits me in that place of uncertainty.
Well, because
So
you have a
I love
Garmin
it.
Phoenix that I gave you, because like I used to do watch and gear testing for Outside Magazine. So I've tested various GPS watches over time, and I gave you one of the most intense ones. Like it's
It
like
is
the Garmin Phoenix Sapphire Pro Ultra Elite Sapphire Solar Phoenix Wizard.
And I will tell you something. I have spent more time trying to figure out how to disable
Oh yeah,
all of the metrics in it.
it's like we own the world's most expensive Casios now.
I don't even look at mileage,
Mm-hmm.
elevation,
Mm-hmm.
pace,
Nope.
any of those things when I'm racing
Mhm.
anymore. I don't
I'll
even
look a
have,
little
I
bit
don't
at
even have them on a screen.
My racing screen has elevation, because I like to know what percentage of the elevation
For sure.
I've done. And for long runs, I have elevation, so that if I have like a certain vert goal in mind, I can sort of vibe it out.
I see that. And it can be
But
important.
that's one of those things. Like
It-
all the other things, I'm like,
it
yeah,
can
fuck
be
it.
helpful, but again, you can be, moderately successful. You can have won a couple races
Yeah.
without doing all of that.
Absolutely. So I think what we're really looking at here is this is something that's been escalating. I think this gets more and more resonant and important to talk about with time, not less, because there's just been a fundamental change, not so much in the science, but
Right.
a lot in the marketing. Because now I feel like a lot of particularly amateur or like average serious-ish runners is wearing 2 or more devices, has subscriptions to 2 or more training apps, and is being fed somewhere between 50 and 100 different metrics on any given day, which
Yeah.
is too much. You've got Whoop, Garmin, Aura, Polar, Coros, Apple. Each one has its own proprietary algorithm telling you how recovered you are, how ready you are, what your fitness trajectory looks like, and then you're feeding that information through Claude, Strava, Training Peaks, all the things. And I think AI has
Right.
also
Other
made
apps
this.
with other black box algorithms.
AI has made this fundamentally noisier, unfortunately, because one of the things, Nick Tiller, one of my favorite writers, has written about how one of the fundamental challenges of AI is it can't tell you when your question is wrong.
Right.
If you ask it a question, it assumes the question is wrong. I feel like a very solid percentage of what I do as a coach is be like,
No, it assumes the question is right.
it assumes the question is right. Correct. So it starts from like, I should be doing more volume, right? Do I add it in on Wednesdays?
Yeah. And
So
that
like,
just validates that.
it validates. I mean, even if you're using Claude versus ChatGPT, there's still a lot of solipsism built in. But every training app now has its own AI coach, predicted finish times, personalized workout suggestions, auto-adjusted training plans based on yesterday's HRV. I honestly, like, shout out to the Runna app. They've been paying our mortgage for like a year and a half. Like, just how many people come to us after being like, well, I tried Runna and then I shattered insert bone here, or got overtrained, insert 50K here.
Right.
Because, and that's no shade at, whatever. Like, the problem is that you have humans interacting with this stuff. AI interacting with other AI probably works great. However, humans. And all this stuff feels really sophisticated. It feels like the future. It feels like what they're doing at the Olympic Training Center. But unfortunately, what a lot of it is just like basic pattern matching, but wearing like a little coach hat.
I love to put on my little coach hat when I talk
I
about
wish I had a little coach. I actually have
this-
my
what do you have right there?
Chow. My Chow hat.
That's a nice hat.
It's cute. My
That's a good
Italian
color
trucker
for
hat.
you. So I think what happens here is this creates an illusion,
Yes.
and in and of itself, this is a trap. When a number is displayed on a screen to 2 decimal places, our brains read it as precise and meaningful, but unfortunately, that's not necessarily the case, because we don't, and these devices don't know, and the AI doesn't know the context in which those numbers are actually appearing and
Yep.
the way that the athlete actually feels. So there's a lot more underlying signal than these devices are. Like, there's much more noise than these devices are
Mhm.
actually able to help the athlete find the signal. And then we can't really from there create meaningful action,
Yeah.
because we just have too much noise. And to tell you the truth, I've been doing this coaching for almost 10 years in just this space.
Yeah.
This is not my first coaching job.
Not including the tennis career.
No. And skiing. So
Also that. That would be like the
Like,
world's weirdest triathlete. It's
such
like
a weird guy
the
over
ski
here.
run tennis.
It's cool though. I love it. Gives me different perspective.
It's just like the suburban dad tour of sports.
I will tell you, like, honestly, running is one of the noisiest disciplines.
Right. Like every single runner is a little bit like Novak Djokovic in terms of their like kind of being a maniac.
I know there's not a lot of Federers in the
Not a
running
lot of
space.
Federers who's just like, I'm a gorgeous Swiss man who like I
Did
in my
mental
head-
performance training.
Exactly. Yeah. Who like normalized therapy for bros. We love it.
And again, that's the issue, right? So like running is very complicated. It's a really high stress
Mhm.
activity. And so when we struggle just without the apps to find the signal and all of the noise that
Yeah.
impacts these systems, we are already at a disadvantage.
Yeah.
And then when we add in all of this other stuff that we think is going to help us to circle in and, nail the bullseye and, get to the actual thing that matters, again, it's confusing us more and taking us further from the place we actually want to be. So that's kind of the illusion that we want
Yeah.
to talk about. And I think it's important for us to really shift towards the idea of what metrics help us actually find the signal in the
Yeah,
noise.
because I think what's important for people to understand is there's a lot of artificial precision, and precision and accuracy are not the same thing.
Yeah.
You can have a metric that looks incredibly precise and it's the same number every time you measure and completely wrong. Like we have our athletes do field tests, which is imperfect, but I think a good tool considered like
It's a good proxy.
short of flying my athletes out to a lab to have a lab tech measure the exact point on an uphill treadmill test where and our coach was actually testing some like new respirator technologies that might be more accessible, but even then a lot of room for user error. So figuring out how to actually calibrate these things is really complicated.
Yeah.
And so if you come, a lot of people come to us and they're like Training Peaks IF score, like all the things that their training is calculated against because their threshold has kind of been picked out of a hat. Their numbers look freaking crazy. Like it looks like they're doing like 20 miles at 1 mile effort, like just things that are like on its face impossible.
Totally.
And the data's like, yeah, they just ran threshold for, 4 hours. Totally.
I
Like
love
that's how
that.
that works. So again, always approaching these things with a good amount of humility and trying to understand where do they come from? Like if you keep pulling on this thread, where does it go? And another thing that I think is really important to the marketing versus science piece is these wearables and these platforms don't give you the data because it's useful.
Right.
They don't give you the data because it's accurate. They give you the data because they can, and they know that people get hypnotized.
Right. And
by
it sells the product.
And it sells the products because if you
or
have
the subscription. And the product.
Here's the thing. It's like at a certain point, like Garmin used to have way more satellites. Now everyone has about the same amount of satellites. So there's not a real edge in terms of the GPS accuracy. So it incentivizes this arms race where if you have two brands of running watch, one is going to be like, oh, well, I'll create a sleep score. Great. The other one would be like, okay, how do we make sure we also are worth the $500? Okay, let's put a VO2 max measurement based on vibes on it. And the other one's like, oh, okay, how do we one up that? Okay, let's do a lactate threshold proxy. Okay, how do we do that? Now we need to bake in an HRV. So it incentivizes this arms race, not because it's helpful, not because it's real, but because it moves product.
So what actually matters? What makes a metric useful? I think the first thing to ask yourself is it actionable?
Yep.
Does the metric allow me to move towards meaningful change?
Mhm.
Like, can you actually do something differently based on this information?
Right. Because otherwise it's just decorative.
Yeah,
You know?
100%.
This is how I feel about pace data, unless you're running a marathon, because if you're out on a recovery run and your watch tells you you're running a 10-minute mile, there is nothing you can do with that information because you should be paying attention to RPE.
Yeah.
Like if you know, actually no, I'm running this 4 to 5 out of 10 effort. That pace doesn't tell you to speed. You should not speed up when you see it. You should not slow down when you see it because you should be paying attention to how you feel, which is why I really try to, for athletes that get really into checking their pace, that is a great first thing to yeet off your watch, because that number cannot and should not change your behavior out in the field. You should be
100%.
tuned into RPE. There are caveats where for athletes that need to execute on really specific workouts, marathon workouts, I use pace when I'm trying to execute my threshold and VO2 max workouts on a treadmill or on flat ground to help me get to just be a sanity check more than anything.
And again, that leads you to the next piece of what makes a metric useful is the signal strong enough to act on.
Yep.
Well, if you are running on flat ground and you know what your 1 hour effort pace is,
Mm-hmm.
and you know you need to be within a certain percentage of that to nail your threshold effort, that's strong information to act on.
Yeah.
You can use that in conjunction with RPE, which is always best, but that is strong information to act on.
Yeah. And what I really want athletes to think about with this one is like macro versus micro, because like one day of a weird HRV reading, that's noise. Several days, weeks, months, years of aberrant readings, that's some really good information, right? A lot of metrics are just too noisy to drive daily decisions. For instance, if your HRV is low, but you feel fine, I'm not going to advise that you don't work out.
Yeah, totally.
Or if you feel terrible, but your HRV is good, I'm not going to say, great, get out there and bang out that workout, TJ.
I remember when I won TMR.
Yeah.
The morning HRV reading was like one of the lowest HRV readings
Yeah.
I'd ever had.
Yes.
And I felt none of that during the race.
Well, right, because it's fake. It's not good. It's
So,
fanfic from your wrist.
again, one day of a low HRV reading isn't necessarily enough information to act on unless it's really coupled with other really specific symptoms like I'm sick, I have diarrhea.
Yep. I didn't sleep well. I had 7 beers. I'm also feeling a little bit like I'm not managing my training load well. I'm feeling under recovered. Oh, here's this data that can help me get in touch with that as well.
But you would be, I mean, you're not surprised, but maybe listeners would be surprised as to how many athletes will make decisions about what to do based on that reading before even asking themselves how they truly feel.
Yeah.
And or will make the step of that data actually impacting how they're feeling.
Yep.
I see this HRV, so therefore I should be feeling this.
Yep.
And that's a huge problem. I think it's one of the, and I'm going to digress here a little bit before we go into the metrics that actually matter. But I think it's one of the challenges, like HRV for Training is a great app. Many elites across many different disciplines, many different sports use this app to get a morning HRV reading. It's best to be done right in the morning, right when you wake up. Sometimes that takes place before people have even asked themselves how they feel.
Yeah.
And that can be that can really distract people from what's really important. So when we're using these devices that are reputable and can help us find patterns that can lead to meaningful action, we do have to bring a sense of self-awareness. And
the ultimate goal is self-awareness.
Yeah,
the ultimate goal is not to have an app that becomes the be-all, end-all of your training readiness.
Unfortunately, we see in our practice, like we work with athletes.
God, I wish I had invented a data app.
Totally. We should invent an app on how to not use the data.
Yeah.
Like
it's like the touch grass app, and it's just like go touch grass.
It's called what? Waking up app or something. It's like one of those mindfulness apps.
It reads your HRV and then it just gives you a smiley face and a thumbs up and like a Gandhi quote every single day.
Anyways, other important things that are helpful for you guys in understanding what metrics are actually useful. Can I verify the underlying measurement?
Yep.
Like, is it part of a proprietary algorithm with the black box inside of it?
I think anytime you have like the Mad Libs where it's like brand score or like training blank score, like anything with like the name of a brand, the name of a device, and the word score, I would be skeptical of. Because like, what is it? Genuinely, I'm asking for a friend who is me.
Lastly, does the data tell me something my body isn't already telling me? So sometimes a metric just confirms what our RPE already said. Like, I'm running at 1 hour effort. Oh, I'm running 6-minute pace. How nice. That's just a nice confirmation that I'm running at the right effort level for my workout. But sometimes it's not.
Mhm.
And so we really need to make sure. I really like it if athletes consider first asking themselves how they feel before consulting that data. And then if there's a corroboration between the data and the feeling, maybe we do have something more meaningful that we can look at.
Yeah. And I think that, what is important to acknowledge is that more information is not better, right? Like if you can't guide if you can't guide behavior change with it, it starts to distract from the things that do matter,
Yeah.
right? Like, which is why, like with athletes, I really try to help coach people to tune out. Like, I don't need you looking at your heart rate every 10 seconds. Like, please take that off your watch. Like, you have a great, very sophisticated heart rate monitor between your ears. Tap into that. Because all of those things, like you only have so much time and energy to give your training, like truly. So you need to be ruthless about giving it to the right things.
Absolutely.
Otherwise, you are knowingly indulging in vibes for the emotional feel goodness of it all. And that is not what I am here to do, unfortunately.
I think that just creates a great short-term sensation at best, and
If you want
long-term,
that,
it creates a big disconnect.
If you want that, go to Build-A-Bear Workshop. If you do not, you can come to Microcosm Coaching.
All right. 5 metrics that actually matter. Let's go through a couple of these for athletes. Okay. Metric number 1, rate of perceived exertion.
Tell me why this matters.
So this is the master metric. We've talked about this
every day
for
the rest of our lives.
For 10 years. But literally, this is what matters. And then everything else is context to this. So RPE is the only metric that integrates everything: cardiovascular load, neuromuscular fatigue, hormonal state, sleep debt, emotional stress, heat, altitude, hydration, fueling. Your body is doing that integration in real time and giving you a single output. How do I feel? Does this feel hard? Does it feel easy?
Yeah.
Like, wow, what an amazing thing that we can do that.
And this like sounds like a high as hell thought, but whenever you're like, whoa, all the things my brain is doing while I'm just like out here vibing to this American life is insane.
Oh my gosh. It feels like a Pineapple Express moment.
100%.
Like, whoa. Really?
Because someone would be like, how'd your run go? And I was like, did you know that my brain automatically knows that I'm dehydrated and stressed? And they're like, yeah, dog, that's kind of its whole thing. It's what it does.
So wearables just don't do this.
Yeah.
They're measuring 1 or 2 physiological proxies and inferring everything else through algorithms. I think that's so key to underline and just breathe in and integrate when you look at your watch for information. Your perception of what's happening is so direct to the actual experience in the context you bring into things.
Yes.
So
your perception is holistic. The algorithms, heart rate, whatever it is so much more narrow. And I'm not saying that we delete those and never use them. I always think about using them as like bumpers in bowling. So I do want to talk about the science.
Yeah,
I think that
sciences.
helps because like the sciences, because like these are things that feel sciencey. Like RPE, people are like, ew, gross feelings. That's not science.
Right.
Numbers are science. And my friends, take my evidence-based hands as we journey into Norway or Sweden. So RPE was developed by Gunnar Borg in the 1960s, and it's been validated across hundreds of studies as a really strong predictor of physiological strain, heart rate, lactate, and oxygen consumption. Very importantly for our purposes, it correlates well with internal load, even when external load, pace, and power is identical. So 2 runs at the same pace can produce very different RPE values, and that difference is real information about what's happening internally. That's not a bug. That is a feature, that discordance. So research on session RPE, so like when athletes rate perceived effort 30 minutes after a workout, multiplied by duration, shows consistently across multiple studies, it tracks training load as well, if not better, than more invasive measures in most populations. So like invasive as like we are drawing blood,
Yeah.
we are doing muscle biopsies, we are fucking your shit up. Like invasive, something is going into you and then it is coming out with less of you attached.
So we use, as many other coaches do, use an RPE scale 1 through 10 for runners. Basically, we're looking at 4 through 10.
Yep.
Zone 1, 4 to 5. This is our recovery runs. Zone 2, we're starting to get, 5 to 6, kind of our endurance or easy running zone. 7 out of 10, we're looking more at those moderately paced, steady state efforts. 8 to 9 out of 10 is our threshold work to 10K work. So above, just below and above 1 hour effort.
Mm-hmm.
And then 10 out of 10 and above is everything faster, essentially everything faster than 10K pace or more, faster than 1 hour effort. We'll call it VO2 max, just to keep it simple.
So on easy days, the RPE should always be conversational, comically slow on recovery days and focused slow on endurance days. So full sentences, you should be able to sing along to what you're listening to. If you can't, slow down. It's that easy.
I think
actually, if it was, I mean, honestly, we've done like 9 podcasts about it, so I understand on an intellectual level it's not.
Right.
And slash, it literally took me 7.5 years of my own training to, with some degree of confidence, feel like I'm getting this right. So
I think it's wild
I am
too.
you.
Just reflecting. I was thinking about this earlier on my run today. Like, the more fit I get and the more aware of these things I get over time, actually, the more the slower I tend to run my runs.
Yeah.
Like,
And here's
the more conservative, the less ego is out there. Even my long runs, like, I've dialed the effort way back. I recover a lot better as a result. And the fitness is still there. It's still increasing. So sometimes these things come from, age and experience, but also hopefully hearing it from people who are a little longer in this process than probably most of our listeners are can help to reinforce some better habits, lead to some better decision making.
To that point, I have a story about data because we are not holier than thou. Like, I also have feelings. I also get confused by things. I also want to have the tea leaves be read for me and tell me that I'm like super hot and can win UTMB because I'm a person.
Yeah.
And I had noticed in my Strava app, it had told me that my fitness had been declining over the last 2 years by like a pretty big percent. Like, the graph was like real sad. I was like, man,
it was a sad graph. There's only a minor freak out about this.
Because I was like, what the hell? Like, because I've also PR'd in the past 2 years, I've been progressively PRing every race, every even distance that I've done.
So we knew there was something up.
So I was like, there's something up.
Get to?
So what I did, and actually was extremely fun, but also did almost crash my computer, is I downloaded every single GPX file from my Strava ever, going back to like 2014, put those into Claude. Claude was like, oh my God, you need more therapy. And I was like, thank you. I know. Got it. Point taken.
Thank you.
And I was like, why does Strava think I'm getting less fit? And it was like, oh, because you used to run hard as fuck all the time. And the way that Strava calculates fitness is what percentage of your volume you spend at high intensities.
Right.
So I used to train significantly less volume, more time, at intensity on purpose. Also, a non-zero amount of time just vibing and running too hard because I wasn't held enough as a child or something. And over the past 1.5 years with my new coach, I've been really intentional about slowing down and running my recovery days easy. And thus, I've been able to run like many 100-mile weeks. And so Strava looked at all that information and was like, nah, dog, you're out of shape.
But the analysis ended up also talking about how you are going further at a faster pace at a lower heart rate. I think that's one of the big things that we discussed as being a strong sign that, in addition to like the race results, which speak for themselves, also kind of like validated, the experience that, yes, I'm progressing. And
and that's macro data. That's like over the course of 6 years, like all the many, many minutes extrapolated again across many different runs, different conditions, different terrains, my heart rate for any given pace had gone down.
Yeah.
And that is not something that athletes are sophisticated. Like, that's why athletes always try to do the I ran this same loop last year and it was easier. And it's like, that's awesome. That's a pretty small piece of data right there. So,
all right. I love that. And I think that'll resonate with a lot of folks too. And it tells us why maybe we shouldn't be looking too hard at those Strava graphs.
the Strava AI is like so funny. Like,
It's my best friend.
As a stand-up comedian, I will never be as funny as the Strava AI, and it kills me.
Always tells me how good I'm doing.
It's always like when I title it threshold workout, and then I'll like once I like mentioned a rapper, it was like great threshold workout with Missy Elliott. It's like
she's such a great training partner.
it's not actually what's going on here. Strava AI, a girl
She's
can
strong.
dream, but
She's strong.
she's so good. We have the same threshold apparently.
For some reason, I highly doubt that. Okay, before I digress on that one, metric number 2, consistency, specifically consecutive weeks of training.
I'm going to say it. This is the most underrated metric.
Okay.
Tell me why.
Okay, I'll
want
tell
you to
you
tell me
why.
why.
I'll talk about it.
I want you to validate my hot take that I slid in there.
In lieu of hot or nots here, we do have a hot take on this.
I don't need to go to Chat GPT to be affirmed. It's what husband is for.
Correct. This was a very hot take, Zoe, and I'm going to validate it right now because adaptation requires a lot of repeated stimulus over time.
Sure does.
Mitochondrial biogenesis,
Mm-hmm.
capillarization, tendon stiffness adjustments, hemoglobin mass. These are all slow biological processes. We've talked a lot about this here on the podcast, but it's always worth repeating over and over again. These things happen over time as a result of consistent progressive overload in training. So peak weekly mileage is something that we love to look at. We're like, hell yeah, this is great. Looks good on Strava. Love those 100-mile weeks.
Mm-hmm.
But to be honest, like when we really look at your training over the course of a year or a couple years, where's your actual baseline?
Yeah.
How close is your foundation to your ceiling? These things tell us a lot more about where your fitness is at and what your overall capabilities are as an athlete than your ability to do a few hero weeks of training.
Yeah.
And the science is pretty sound on this.
So, when we've talked about detraining, and I'll link to that episode on Spotify, but detraining
That's a great
research,
episode.
so good. That one is like a real emotional support episode for me.
I always send that to athletes because especially ones that are worried, about dealing with an injury.
I had to take 2 days off. My VO2 max is ruined. So detraining research shows that aerobic fitness actually begins to decline within 7 to 10 days of inactivity.
Inactivity. That means no training.
By 4 weeks, totally off, fully just Netflix and chill, you've lost approximately 20% of your VO2 max. By 8 weeks, capillary density drops measurably. So the reverse is true on the build. Chronic training load, which in Training Peaks is measured as CTL, which is your rolling 42-day average, is a far better predictor of race performance than peak weekly volume, which is one of the many reasons I really like Training Peaks. Shout out TP. There was a 2023 study in the International Journal of Sports Physiology and Performance that found that the number of weeks an athlete sustained a given training load was a stronger predictor of marathon performance than the peak load reached. So all that is to say is consistency over intensity.
How I want athletes to consider using this is track your consecutive weeks of training. If you're not using something like Training Peaks, which has a free version where you can upload your training in there, even if you're self-coached, I would recommend it. At worst, you're using like a Google spreadsheet or writing it in a notebook or something, but you should absolutely be tracking your training somewhere. The total number to watch is how many weeks in a row you've completed at least 80% of your prescribed volume. 4 weeks is good. 8 weeks is great. 12 or more weeks of consistent training is where the real adaptations live. So these uninterrupted periods of training. So again, if you're an athlete who likes to stack a lot of races on top of each other, just going back to 2 or 3 episodes ago, we had a great listener question on racing really frequently. We do undermine our training when we do this. We don't have the windows for long-term training that actually produce meaningful adaptation. So, 2 weeks of consistent training is great, But if you're missing a week here and a week there every couple weeks, you're not really getting the training to actually add up in a way that's favorable to you.
Yeah.
So before you go and, sign up for a race or, try to take on some spicy, block training periodization and do your threshold work, figure out how to run 5 days a week every week for 3 months.
Exactly. So I think the caveat here is that this is the metric that wearables and apps systematically and like almost intentionally underemphasize because it's just boring. There's no flashy dashboard that's like signed up for 9 weeks in a row, right? Like you get your Strava, like Strava crowns absolutely drive batshit behavior. Like if we could give people crowns where it's like, thank you for being normal for 4 consecutive weeks, the sport would look totally different.
Local legend right here.
I mean, even that, I honestly think, hot take, that's just a cynical attempt to give everyone a trophy on Strava and incentivize more people to upgrade. But like,
my Strava AI says different.
Yeah, it says I'm great. My chat GPT says that I am great and uniquely not being bullshitted by this stuff. But I think that that's really what separates athletes who progress from athletes who plateau. And we see it constantly as coaches, but apps almost never highlight it, which, like, again, we know like the way that these things are gamified, the things that they incentivize do change behavior in the real world, right? Like people will run round numbers to get to exactly like 6 or 10 miles or whatever, exactly 100, like the amount of 99.96 mile weeks I ran, like just exposure therapy. So I understand it, but again, don't let random numbers and like bullshit drive your decisions.
All right. Metric number 3. This is my holistic curveball for the outline.
Yeah.
Sleep duration, 14-day average.
Yeah, this is like actually me manifesting something I wish like all these apps did. Like if I could create, like I interviewed Scott Johnston and he's working with Training Peaks to create apps, like some metrics specifically for them to help with muscular endurance. Surprise, surprise. The Zoe app would be like the nap score of like
the nap
how
score.
good you're sleeping.
I love
it. I think what I want people to think about here is not obsessing about last night's sleep score. So let go of the micro, focus on the macro. And I'm talking about the trend over 2 weeks. So maybe you can illustrate why that's important.
Well, it matters because sleep is one of the primary spaces in which adaptation happens. And it's where a lot of our recovery takes place.
Yep.
Growth hormone is released during peak hours in our sleep. We have slow waves happening in our deep sleep that allow for, all of this kind of, all of these hormonal processes. There's lymphatic clearance and drainage while we're sleeping. The list goes on and on. Tendon and connective tissue remodeling, immune function increases when we're sleeping, hormonal regulation, digestion, glycogen restoration. This is kind of like the hydration of recovery, kind of like if sleep's bad, everything downstream that we want that's going to make us a better athlete is going to be bad.
And the thing that's tricky, like I was almost about to be like make a joke of like I wish we gave Strava crowns for sleep, but also the sort of like paradox here is the more you try to sleep, like I say this is someone that has like I struggle so hard with sleep.
Yeah.
The more you try to sleep good, the less good your sleep's gonna be. Even, to the point where there's a condition called orthosomnia, which is where the obsession with trying to get good sleep undermines your ability to get sleep.
Yep.
I feel that. So whatever, and it's tough because like you want to incentivize this stuff like sleep. You have to hold we're big boys and girls, so we're going to hold 2 ideas in our hands at the same time, that sleep is one of the most important things you can do for your athletics, and stressing yourself out about sleep to the detriment of your sleep is not the approach to take.
So in 2025, De Jong had a sleep research study where they looked at sleep and compared it to injury risk.
Mm-hmm.
And what they found was for poor sleepers, they had a 68% probability of injury in a 12-month period.
Yikes.
So, and that's 1.78 times higher than our steady sleepers.
Yeah. There's another study also from last year that found that sleep quality specifically predicted running related injury with a hazard ratio of 1.36. So like big connection there. Multiple studies also in adolescent athletes have shown that under 8 hours, in one study I found, roughly doubles injury risk. So I don't like trying to scare yourself into sleeping more is a poor strategy. Don't do it. We just want to emphasize that, like, I think this is one of the things that, like, when athletes are like, well, I'm not sleeping well, I guess I'm just going to like buy a bunch of supplement. Like, it's one of the things that, like, I think people don't think about enough. And I'm not totally sure that I know what the best way to think about it is, because I'm just a gal with coaching certifications.
It's complicated.
It's complicated, but it is really, really important and something you have to think about. And it's something that I wish people measured in a more holistic way than like, well, whoops, I didn't sleep well because I had 4 beers.
Right. And I think the important thing is to think about, again, it's not what any one single night of sleep looks
Mhm.
like. As humans, we're all going to have bad nights of sleep.
Yes.
But
It's
what
2026, y'all.
Yeah,
We are living in a nightmare.
It's been a weird year.
It's been a weird one.
So 14-day rolling average is something we can look at.
Yeah.
Are you getting more than 7 hours a night on average across that 14-day rolling average? I would really push athletes to consider more than 8 hours as a benchmark within this rolling average as well. 7 is great, but 8 is certainly better. And there's a lot of research that does back that up. If you sleep well on a Saturday night, but you don't sleep well on a Sunday, that's okay. Remember, it's not about just one singular night.
And when you zoom out and look at the research, single night sleep is not predictive. So one bad night of sleep, not correlated with injury risk and health stuff. It's that 14-day rolling average. So, like, anytime you do, like me, get caught in one of those tough sleep spirals and you're like, oh my God, I'm not sleeping. I have a workout tomorrow and I have to talk with 900 people on the phone. Oh my God. It's okay. You're allowed, and you will have a bad night of sleep, and it does not mean you will immediately wake up and break yourself.
I'm integrating that because I slept poorly last night. So it's very helpful to hear. Okay. Metric number 4, long run as percentage of your 30-day maximum. Why does this matter, Zoe?
So this one is going to get spicy because it's based on slightly newer research from 2025 that I think is an important mindset shift for how we think about long runs. So there's a study by Franson et al. That came out last year in the British Journal of Sports Medicine that looked at over 5,000 runners for 18 months.
Love that.
Love that sample size. Just chef's kiss. They looked at injury risk not based on weekly mileage, but based on how a single session compared to that athlete's longest run in the previous 30 days. And the findings were wild. And maybe not wild, somewhat predictable, but in an exciting way. So a 10 to 30% spike above, or a 10 to 30% spike above the athlete's recent 30-day max produced 64% higher injury risk. A 30 to 100% spike, which is a 100% spike, like, yikes, produced, we see that shit all the time. People are like, or I signed up for this 100K. I've been really inconsistent. I haven't done all my long runs. So I'm just going to shoehorn a 6-hour run in the middle of my training block, having mostly done 2-hour runs because I'm nervous, like, that race day is going to be too big a jump. So then I just front load my training with all the risk. So if you
roll that dice,
so 30 to 100% above baseline produced a 52% higher injury risk, doubling your long run beyond your 30-day max, more than doubled the injury risk. It was 128%. Like, wow. Yikes. Like, at that point, I mean, you might as well do your long run across a bed of Legos for as good as that's going to feel.
Just pre-schedule that PT appointment.
Here's where things get really, really interesting in this big old data set is that traditional metrics like acute to chronic workload ratio and week-to-week mileage changes showed no clear association with running injury in the study. So a lot of the things that we're sort of trained to look for didn't come through in this particular study as very loud and clear being big injury predictors. So the body, it turns out, and the authors concluded in the study, responds to single session stress more than weekly averages in this particular way. And that this is something to think about and why you can't just do wildly long runs in order to get ready for a wildly long race, and why maybe doing a race that's wildly long that you're not prepared for is a questionable life choice.
Let me just mention a couple things happening under the hood before we go on to metric number 5. Bone remodeling responds to load magnitude per session, not weekly cumulative load. So a single big load is what creates bone micro damage.
Yep.
And that's not what we need to create kind of like durability within the musculoskeletal system. We need that consistent progressive overload and ample time for recovery in order to do that. So tendon adaptation also has a strain threshold. Below a certain level, you don't adapt, and above a certain level, you get injured. And, a massive single session spike can push you well past that threshold. It's something to really, really be mindful of.
Tendons are such divas, which is also why whenever I have people that are like, I'm going on vacation, can I do an absurdly long run? And I'm like, well, I'm glad that you have the time, but like, did you ask your tendons about this idea?
Yeah.
Like, what about your bones? Like, it doesn't matter what I think. Like,
Training history matters.
Training history matters a lot. Just because you have an opportunity doesn't mean it's always going to be appropriate to like get Cindy.
I think some athletes could consider tracking longest run in the past 30 days and making sure their next long run isn't more than 10 to 15% beyond that. If you're self-coaching, that could be a way to kind of integrate this metric in a meaningful way moving forward.
And if you missed a long run, don't make up the milds. I would tell athletes to resume at their recent normal, not where you would have been, because otherwise that creates too much of a jump. And so
absolutely.
like it just increases the risk in a way that the benefit doesn't merit.
All right, metric number 5. Carbohydrate intake during long runs in grams of carbs per hour.
We had to talk about it.
Of course.
So this is one that I feel like a lot of athletes just are fully wilding out, have no data on, and they need to. Shout out to a community member who actually developed an app, Tom, to help athletes track this. And I tell people to use it all the time. Thanks, Tom. So I think it's important because we've seen across multiple studies, actually just in the past year, that recreational runners, so you, unless you're Jim Walmsley, in which case,
we should link to his app in the show notes.
Runners chronically underfuel during long efforts. The Seville Marathon study found an average intake of 35 grams of carbs an hour against that recommendation of closer to 60 to 90. A Dublin city study that actually weighed gels before and after races found that marathoners average just 22 grams of carb per hour.
Wow,
so
that's not a lot.
People say, I'm fueling amazing. I'm doing exactly what I should. I'm taking a gel every yada yada. And then when you actually weigh their gels, y'all, we got work to do.
Some science here.
That's science.
So endogenous glycogen stores cover roughly 90 to 120 minutes of moderately intense running. Beyond that, carbohydrate intake is mandatory to maintain pace.
Yep.
Carbohydrate oxidation rates during exercise top out around 60 grams of carb an hour for glucose alone and 90 grams of carbs an hour with a glucose-fructose blend, which uses separate intestinal transporters. So if you're using a gel or a liquid fuel or something that has this ratio of 2-to-1 glucose to fructose, which is really, really common, you have 2 pathways for digestion, which is super helpful for bringing up those carbohydrate levels during your race.
Yeah. But essentially what the science shows us is that runners systematically overestimate how much they're fueling. They think they took in 60 grams, 70, 80, and they actually took in 25. So that gap is real and consistent. And this is not a message about like everyone needs to go high carb. This is a message of you need to know your number. Like we need to have a baseline awareness on your carbs. And I would extrapolate the same thing to sodium and fluid, because so often we'll have an athlete come to us that's like, my long run fueling isn't working. And I'm like, great, give me the numbers. And they're like, well, I have no idea. So I'm like, it's like if you went into the mechanic's office and you didn't bring your car, it's like, well, I'm going to have a real limited ability to coach you through this. So log that, like, keep the wrappers on you, count that, like, I count out the gels that I ate. I count out how fluid's my struggle. I count out the fluid and the sodium, and I write that in my Training Peaks log so I can see like, oh yeah, when I did this and it was hot, I actually felt quite good. Or like, Oh yeah, no wonder I had heart rate decoupling because I missed a gel in hour 3 and then I never really got back on track. So you need to know what your numbers are. Like there's so many numbers to not think about that we've mentioned today. Here are some to invite into your life that many people don't think to track. Like fuck heart rate, fuck a lot of the stuff like during the run. Focus on food, fluid, salt.
All right. I can't.
We'll do an episode next week about
Okay.
5 metrics that athletes should absolutely ignore. We've touched on a lot today, but I mostly wanted
Love
to
it.
give people a framework for things that we actually should think about. So,
Well, let me self-assess.
great.
Let me help athletes with, I'm not going to self-assess here in front of everybody. Let me help athletes with a self-assessment. So before your next training week,
Let me self-assess
let me
you.
self-assess. Let me help athletes with a little self-assessment. So before your next training week, audit your metric intake. How many
Audit that
metrics?
metric diet.
How many metrics are you checking daily? I don't know how many you should be checking, but like what feels like the right amount for you that allows you to
Again,
focus
know
on
where your baseline is, right? Like it's like with
Yeah.
carbs. I'm not saying you're doing it right or wrong, but if we don't know what our starting point is, then we can't assess where to go from there.
I couldn't agree more. And I think if you don't know how to understand how you feel and articulate that, you're likely using too many metrics.
Correct.
So I'm just going to underline everything else I say with that.
Great.
Of those metrics, how many are you actually acting on? Are you checking your wearable readiness score before you've even asked yourself how you feel? If so, rewind this entire podcast and listen to it again. I know my consecutive week training streak? Going back to some of these metrics that actually matter. What does my consistent training actually look like? Do I know my 14-day sleep average? Huge, huge. Am I getting 7 hours of sleep at least a night? Hope so. Do I know what I fueled with on my last long run in grams of carbs an hour, ounces of fluid an hour, and milligrams of sodium per hour?
Yep. Love it. So if you're acting on 3 or fewer metrics and you know the answers to those second set of questions, amazing. You just spent an hour with us for no reason and we applaud you. But if you're checking 10 metrics a day, you don't know your fueling numbers, y'all, you're paying attention to the wrong stuff. So do that attention audit. Open every app and device that gives you a metric, the Strava, the Coros, the Garmin, like all of it. Open it up and pick the 3 important ones from this episode. Figure out where and how you're tracking them and what you actually plan to do with that info. If you have a coach, congratulations, you're paying someone to do all of this for you every single day. Turn off notifications for everything else. Curate your watch. That is one of the most boss level things an athlete can do.
I love that. And again, I hope you had as much fun talking about this as I did. But as a final thought, the body has no fucking clue what a readiness score is.
So true.
And your watch has no idea what your VO2 max is. So please, I can't stress this enough. Think about how you feel before you go and lean on any of this data that likely is taking you further away from the biggest signal, which is, actually how you feel and the thing that helps you do that, which is your brain.
Fire one of your psychics. You get one.
You only
Not
get one
2 psychics.
All right, guys. Thank you. As always, microcosmcoaching@gmail.com. We love hearing from you. We love your questions, hot or not, all of it. Please get in touch and check out our coaching, microcosm-coaching.com.